And now your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. Gosh, I'm glad you guys are all with me here tonight. I've got a great guest for you. It's my good friend, Jim Ledwith. He is also known as UFO Jim, and he's got some extraordinary new stuff to talk to you guys about, especially Roswell. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Roswell tonight. We're going to talk about Hollywood and UFOs. We're just going to talk about all kinds of things that Jim knows about. He's also done some research into the moon. There's all kinds of things that Jim has done, and we're just going to touch upon them all this evening. So I just want you guys get braced for that one. It's going to be a great show tonight. And then, besides all that, you guys, I want to thank the couple of people last week who donated some money to help me get to the MUFON Symposium. I really do appreciate it, but you guys, I'm falling way short, and I'm getting a little concerned because what's happened at this point is I did pay $300 for that table, and it's, I know, people are going, why did you even do that? Well, there's a reason I did it, folks, and it has to do with my non-position in MUFON. Let's just put it that way. I do very often, not very often, but seldom, every once in a while, I talk to Jan Harzen. And I'm just trying my best right now to keep MUFON in good hope, good light, and good love, because I really think MUFON has been around forever, and my hope for them through all the debacles and battles and craziness that has been going on with MUFON in the last 6 months, that I really do hope they come out of it at the other side bigger, stronger, and better than what they were before. And having said that, I have had some conversations with Jan about the fact that, I really feel that we need more female presence within the MUFON hierarchy structure. I think it'll make a big difference. I don't think the women are quite as much ego-driven as the men. Sorry to say, guys, but I absolutely believe that. After meeting all the people that run the MUFON board and they're on the directors, there's a few that aren't. Like, I can tell you right now, I'm going to name one guy that I know is truly not ego-driven about the whole thing, and that's Dave McDonald. He's absolutely an amazing guy. He's wonderful. He is the person that gave me the green light to do this show. So I'm very happy that I have him at my back, and I just think he's a great guy, and he does amazing research. George Filer, he's kind of, I don't know how high up in the food chain he is, but he's an amazing guy too. I mean, there's some really amazing guys that do the work, and it's not about the ego. And I'm not going to mention the ones I believe they're ego-driven, but I can tell you this. If we replaced those certain guys, there's not many of them, but if we replaced those certain guys, we would have, with women, I think we would have a much more balanced MUFON hierarchy structure. Having said that, Jan has been doing his best to get new state directors throughout the United States, and he has done so by getting a whole bunch of women to come forward to fill those positions. So I'm hoping that by these women being our state directors, that things will get a little less chaotic. That's the only way I can describe it, because I think there's a lot of posturing going on, and that's just my opinion, folks. Hey, I don't know, and like I said, MUFON will survive all this. It always does, and I think Jan Harzen truly is probably the right guy to be leading it through this, the problems we're having, because he's smart enough to realize that MUFON will survive in the end too. So, and I get that, and so that's why I am not throwing MUFON out. Like everybody else I know has pretty much thrown them away, and I get that. I probably should have made a stance and thrown them away myself, but the problem I've got is I truly believe in the cause of MUFON, and in spite of some of the burps, the missteps, the Bigelow scandals, all the stuff that's happened, I still love MUFON because they're the last man standing when it comes to an organization that truly is trying to do some good work. Now, as many of you know, I'm always the first one to say, you never know who's behind the curtain. You know, it could be an alphabet agency. You never know. But hey, there is an alphabet agency behind every organization that makes it as far as MUFON has made it. I mean, NICAP was, all of them had their issues. So, you know, just remember that, folks, when you start, hey, you never know, you don't want to be part of an organization that has that going on. Well, hey, who knows? And who cares? You know, that's my opinion. All my friends are like, oh, what if the CIA's getting all the information? What if the government's getting all? I go, who cares? They're getting it anyhow. I mean, you guys, have you all forgotten we have a secret space program that they're running, and we have underground bases where they terrorize poor contactees, and all this stuff's going on? Do you think that MUFON really matters that much to them? Probably not at this point. I mean, they're way beyond what MUFON is actually gotten to. So, you know, I think it's actually a little more paranoia going on in the community about the whole thing. So, you know, like I said, I'm going to stick it out with MUFON. We'll see what happens. And the reason I got my table and paid for it was because I am going to be doing a little political posturing. And I think it's time that some of it gets done. And, you know, and hopefully Jan will pat me on the back for it, you know, when it's all said and done. You never know. He may want to give me a swift kick in the behind, but, you know, I'll leave it up to him to decide. What I'm really going to try to do this time at the MUFON Symposium is I'm going to try to get some women to get together and propose some kind of women's organization within MUFON. And I have a couple women picked out to be the leaders. It certainly isn't going to be me because I just don't have the time. But I have a few women that are already higher up in the food chain at MUFON than I am. And, you know, they're well respected in the community, and I'm going to approach them and see if they'll help out. And, you know, you never know, guys. We might be able to get some kind of feminine energy going on at MUFON. So I think it'd be really cool. So that's what I'm doing there, and that's why I'm going, and that's what this is all about. So I just want to let you guys know, you know, I'm really open. I'm very honest about what I do with MUFON and what I don't do with MUFON, and, you know, the whole bit. I want you guys all to know exactly. Like I said, I love MUFON. And I want to see them succeed, and I'm going to try my best to help them out at the conference this year. So that's why I'm going. That's exactly why I paid $300 I don't have to have a table there and do my thing. So I would like to beseech you, if I could, like I said last week, if anybody has a spare $20, $25 or anything, that would really help me out. And here's why. I went and spent my cat food money and my food money this month on that table. So, so if you guys wouldn't mind, you know, if I get $100, at least the cats will be fed and the kitty litter will be changed. That's all I care about at this point. I don't need to eat. I'm like a camel. I got plenty of blubber on me, or like a whale. I got blubber, and I got the humps like the camels, and I'll be fine. I can survive anything. I could probably go a month without food or water and still be fine. But the cats can't, so that's important to me. So if you want to make a donation to the Kitty Fund for Lorien to get to MUFON and you know, do her thing, you can do it at LORIEN F as in Frank, LORIENF as in Frank at Comcast.net. Go ahead and throw some money into that PayPal account, and you can do it through friends and family. That way we don't get dinged. You know, that's the best way to do it. So if you can do that, that'd be wonderful. And I'll ask one more time during the show, and that's it. And next week I will be on a plane heading to Las Vegas at the same time my show is happening. So I won't be here with you, but we'll play a really great, you know, best of. So I'm sure MJ's already thumbing through the files looking for the best of show for you guys. And then if everything works out right, I will be sitting. Now, I do have what Jan Harzen did give me, the best table in the house. I want to tell you guys all this. This is the wonderful miracle of MUFON. The vendor room was sold out. And apparently at the JW Marriott, they are completely sold out. They have several conferences going on at the same time. And they are obviously charging them for tables, and they are not letting them, it's interesting, they're not letting them have as many tables in the lobby as they would like to have had. They wanted to spread out their vendor room out to the lobby area, and the hotel would not let them for fire marshal reasons, I don't know. But they did allow them a registration table and a couple of other tables that they were going to use for something else, I believe. And Jan was kind enough to let me have the table that will be opposite the doors of the speaker or vendor room, I'm not sure which, that they were going to put like marketing on, or I don't know what they were going to do with it. But anyhow, it's my table now. I paid for it. I'm the only one out in the lobby. I'll be doing broadcasting from there. And that's what I wanted to tell you is I do hope that you guys are going to be either listening to me live there, or I'm going to be recording the whole thing on video, and you can watch it later. So don't worry about that. It'll all be up on my website. And here's the other part to this. If you can't make the MUFON Symposium, you have got to go buy the live stream. The live stream will get you for, I think it's on the website now. It's $79, and that includes a free year of MUFON TV, which is a new channel they've got going. It includes the membership to MUFON, and it includes the live stream of the conference. So for $80, you're getting the whole ball of wax, the whole shebang. And trust me, folks, it's well worth it, because I think the MUFON TV alone is something like $79 a year. And I think your membership, I think it's $35, if I remember correctly, because I got to renew mine this month anyhow. And then there is the live stream of the event, which they were charging just $79 for. So I think you're saving like $100 by doing that. So I think it's a great deal. I really, really want all of my listeners to really buy that and watch it. Invite your friends over. Have 3 or 4 people over. Watch it on your big screen TV. You can, plug in the HDMI cord to your computer and get it up on the on the big screen. Clone your screens and just watch it. I mean, it's going to be amazing. Invite the gang over. Have, all your MUFON buddies, all your friends, all your UFO buddies, your other contactee friends. And if you guys are going to your meetings like you're supposed to be, like I have been asking you to all along, and if you're creating groups, MUFON groups, go to the state director. If the state director isn't going to the conference, I know what you guys need to do. Okay, here's the answer to that. You call the state director and you ask him if he's going to buy the live stream and play it for all you guys. Okay? So there you go. That way you can make him have a meeting. I'm not sure all the state directors are going. So, if you guys can't go, the state director can't go, get the live stream. Sit there and watch it. Now, I'm telling you guys, this MUFON Symposium is going to be extraordinary. It's going to be a lot of interesting things going on there. So I do hope you do watch the live stream, because this whole Corey Good thing's, going to play out there very seriously. And Bill Tompkins is going to be there. Bob Wood's going to be there. Andy Bashago's going to be there. I don't know if Alfred Weber's going to be there. No, I don't think so. Andy Bashago, Michael Schratt's going to be there, and so is Mark McCandlish. And Mark and Michael are very good friends of mine, and I seriously doubt that they're going along the same lines as the Corey Good stuff. Now, I can tell you this, I do know that they, as myself, absolutely believe that he's got something going on. And, I don't know if I said it on this show, but I'm going to say it one more time. Folks, I am not bashing Corey Good, okay? I'm tired of everybody emailing me, telling me that they are tired of me bashing him. I am not bashing him. I think he is a contactee of some sort. At worst, he is a mind-controlled contactee that's been set up to make us all look like fools with his dolls and his comic books. And at best, well, let's put it that way. At best, he's the guy who makes the comic books and the dolls and does all the TV shows and all that stuff. At worst, he's a con man who got into this for the money. So, there's 2 sides to this, and I'm vying on the side that he's a mind control victim, just like a lot of people are that are in this. And if he isn't mind controlled, he is a contactee. but his contact has been so convoluted by the dark forces that are probably kidnapping him and taking him to underground bases, like they've done to Melinda and Misha and all my friends that are got these, my lab stuff going on. People don't realize, this is very important to understand, folks. Many, many abductees, and I'm not talking about the contactees, because I'm not sure that the contactees, the people who talk to the good-looking Plagiarians and Palladians and all that, I don't hear them having the MyLabs contact that the people do that have the gray contact, the grays and the reptilians. They seem to be the main target of the MyLabs. And it seems to be people who have lifelong contact and they remember it. It doesn't seem to be the ones who don't remember or have a few memories here and there. But I'm telling you, folks, the more and more I dig into this, the more and more people that are admitting to me. I go to these meetings and they say, yeah, I've never told anybody this, but besides being a contactee, I've had bruises. I've woken up with guys in the room. I've been taken places I can't remember too much. Interrogated, a lot of really bizarre stuff. And I'm thinking, why is this? And I just, I'm really at the point where I've decided that the reptilians, the grays, and that whole faction is obviously working with our government in a much deeper way than we've ever thought possible. For them to be, abducting people and taking them in vans to meet the grays and the reptilians, to torture them, to interrogate them, to do weird things to them, I'm like, oh my God, it's so insane. And it's not even on a ship. It's usually in an underground base somewhere, or check this out, or an office building. That's even the weirder one that's coming my way these days. So anyhow, a lot of strange stuff going on with it. And anyhow, I digress. But the bottom line to this, Corey Goode could be one of those people. He could be severely compromised, and we don't know. He doesn't know. Who knows? It's whatever it is. I'm not bashing him. I really like the guy. Actually, I wish he'd come on my show and talk about this stuff, and try to maybe explore in his own mind what the possibilities are that has happened to him. Because even Al Bielek, even all the guys that were supposedly involved with the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment have backtracked on everything they did, because now they're now the people that are left over that I have talked to personally over the years have really started to wonder if they weren't programmed into saying what they were saying. And I'm starting to wonder about a lot of people out there. So, there you go, folks. That's still my stance. I still think some of the stuff that Corey Goode's been bringing up is just a little out there, and then some of it is just, basic I'm a contactee stuff. And I found out the other day, a friend of mine called and said, did you know that William Henry had talked about the blue avians long before Corey Goode did? And that kind of cinched it for me. Then I felt kind of like, oh, God, I didn't know that. And then I was really bothered, because I thought that the blue avians were kind of his thing, that he was the person who brought them to the forefront. And to find out that William Henry actually did it quite a bit sooner, and then listening to other people talk about the stories he told about that were being talked about other people quite a bit earlier on, that I just it kind of made my stomach turn, because I'm starting to think, oh God, this could be the con man scenario. I'm just very worried about that. So, and I actually know of another guy in the community who is a con man that I will never talk about and tell you guys anything about it, but I can tell you this. I was thinking about, back in 2012, to have this guy speak at a conference of mine. And I was met at another conference by his ex-girlfriend. She actually drove 3 states to find me, because she had heard through the grapevine that I was thinking about having this guy speak at my conference. So the poor girl gets in her car, drives 3 states away, and finds me. She heard I was going to be at this conference. She finds me at the conference. She tracks me down. She says, "Are you Lorien Fenton?" I said, "Yes, I am." She goes, "I've got to talk to you." And so we sat, and we've become good friends since then. But she told me all the things about this guy. And then I said, okay, I got to look into it. I believe you, but I need to find out for myself. So I got a hold of my buddy who is a private investigator. And I said, I need you to track this stuff down for me. And he did. And it turns out she was absolutely right about the physical, the tangible stuff, all the stuff she could corroborate, I could get corroborated by her story corroborated. And by the time it was all over, I listened to a whole bunch of his presentations and realized he had pulled them from a whole bunch of other people from the past. So, yeah. So anyhow, I've already caught one person. And like I said, I'll never tell you guys who it is. And there you go. So, yeah, I just don't want to get into these battles. I really don't. And a lot of people come up to me at my conferences and say, why don't you have so-and-so? Why don't you have so-and-so? And I don't want to burst everybody's bubbles all the time, because I don't know about 90% of these people. If they, I've only investigated 2 or 3 of them and known, but then the people that I just don't resonate with, I just feel like there could be something really wrong with their story, I'm not going to have at my conference. I don't think it's worth my time to have a big name just because he's a big name or she's a big name or whatever. And I just don't feel it's worth my time. I feel I want people with integrity and people who have an interesting story to tell and people that have never been heard before. I think that's so much more important. I think you guys need to hear new people. Aren't you tired of all the same old people over and over again? I sure as heck am. I can't even believe it. Oh, I'm going to say one more thing, then we're going to take a break and get to our guest this evening. I kept him on for a half an hour without saying anything. I feel so bad. I just want to say, I am done with all of these people that are at the same people at the same conferences over and over and over and over again. I don't know about you guys, but if you guys could do me a big favor, I know all of you out there that listen to me know a contactee, are a contactee, and if you know anybody out on the West Coast that wants to tell their story at a conference, maybe they're really good at it. Maybe you think they'd be terrible at it and you wouldn't suggest it. I don't know. But if they could just make a PowerPoint and get up in front of people, I don't care how scared they are, because what I have found out is that the more scared they are, the most amazing presentations come from that, because what happens is they get up on stage, they're petrified, and then they start telling their story, and all the fear goes away for them, because they are magically protected by the good part of everything that's happened to them. And it really comes out, and it's honest, sincere, and it comes out with their love. And I think that's super, super important. I like I said, I don't want any contrived stuff anymore. I'm done with it. So if you guys know of anybody out there who really wants to get their story out, I'd be happy to vet them, and help them if their story is really super compelling. It's like super crazy stuff. I don't mean just lights in the sky or I was taken by the ETs, now I have baby aliens. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's been done a million times. I want some really new stuff, some extraordinary stuff that, isn't that funny? I'm sitting here saying, oh, I don't care about all the people who have kids with aliens anymore and all that. So I want something new and tangible and something that's actually going to be kind of like mind-shattering in the community. I don't know if we're ever going to find that. I don't know if we're ever going to get any real answers anymore. But it sure would be nice to find somebody who's getting those answers from the Plagiarians, the Palladians, or whatever, and see if there's something that's changed since the Billy Meyer stories or the Dan Sherman stories or the, Whitley Strieber stories or the Stan Romanek stories or, whatever they're telling us is going to happen on the planet. I'd like to hear the latest news. Wouldn't that be cool? So anyhow, so that's what I'd like. So if you guys have someone like that, if you are that person, get a hold of me. Get a hold of me through the network. Go to my website, lorienfenton.com, LORIENFENTON.com, and just send me a message and say, hey, I'd like to speak at your conference, and this is my story. And, and we'll check it out. You never know, it would be lovely to have some of you up there. So anyhow, okay, I'm done with that for the night. So you guys remember, MUFON Symposium coming up next week. 20th of July through the 23rd. And get the live stream. Go to mufonsymposium.com to get it. You can also go to mufon.com and find it there. You can do whatever you need to do, but just make sure that you're part of this, because it's going to be truly an extraordinary event. So just, figure out how to be present, electronically or physically. There you go. And I will be broadcasting through IRN and possibly a couple other networks on Friday and Saturday, and it'll be in the afternoon. So I'll just let you guys know about that as it's occurring, I guess. Okay, well, I got to talk to Jim now. Oh, you know what? I haven't been in chat yet. Oh my God, I'm so bad. Jim, are you still with me?
Still hanging in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I usually do about 15 or 20 minutes of ranting, but today I had to go a little longer.
That's okay.
I'm drinking my coffee, and I'm getting ready to figure out what exactly I'm going to do about this whole MUFON situation. You know what? Let's take our break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and I'm not putting you on the hot seat, but you can ask honestly. How's that? Answer honestly about what you feel about MUFON. How's that? Okay. Oh dear, I think I'm being bad. If I put you on the spot already.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Oh, we got a big surprise for you tonight.
What? Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, this is going to be awesome.
You just wanted what you just asked for. You're going to get in spades.
Oh my God. Okay, this is going to be great. All right.
What I say,
okay, you guys.
Here's what I'm going to say before we get into Roswell.
Well, wait. We got to take our first break of the night.
Take the break.
As soon as we get back, then we're going to get into all this stuff.
We're going to do it because I am the messenger.
All right, everybody, stick around. The messenger's going to be with us.
Leave.
UFO Jim.
Massive.
We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton, and I don't know where to start. Jim Ledwith is with us tonight. One of my best UFO buddies, UFO Jim Ledwith. He teaches at the Sonoma Community Center every year in October, all about UFOs, and he's covered the moon. He's covered Hollywood and UFOs. He's covered. Oh my God, Roswell. What else have you covered, Jim?
Abduction.
Oh yeah.
Done abduction. Just everything. I mean, I'm more of a generalist ufologist than have a specific category or subject matter that I kind of, delve in. I just don't want to do one thing. I don't blame you. And I also wanted to say, you do something that nobody else does. And you are so good at it, and you really should be doing it all over the United States. And that is that Jim curates UFO film festivals, and he creates them. He created one at my conference, UFO Con, this year. It kind of blew our minds, didn't it, Jim? On Friday night, Jim picked out all these kind of old-timer videos that were all in black and white, and just kind of like, I just kind of figured, we'd only have a few people in the room and they wouldn't stay very long, and I kind of thought we'd shut it down early, right, Jim? That's what I thought too. I was looking forward to meeting you all at the bar. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I thought, well, if it's a bust, we'll all just go hang out at the bar together, right? That's right. The next thing I know, I'm having a meeting with all the speakers, and we're in the next room, and it's about 9 or 10, and then it's going on. It's happening. There's still people in there, and then I'm thinking, well, that's kind of cool. There wasn't a ton of people, but there's a lot more people than I thought. And then we went really late, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and people were still in the room watching these things. Yeah. And I was absolutely amazed, and they were really good. Why don't you tell the audience the names of those so they can go look them up themselves, because they are just truly amazing. What are they now? YouTube videos or whatever. You can see all the films that I'm going to mention. You can see on YouTube. Yeah. So you don't have to buy it or anything like that. You can go see it at your leisure, so to speak. Yeah. What we did was we have with the Sonoma International Film Festival, which is a mainstream film festival. We've done this with film, and we're in our 8th year now, where we do our UFO symposium. And we primarily deal with the general public, though we do have some people, MUFON people, and Lorien, her chapter, the Sacramento chapter, San Jose chapter, California, that attend. But it was interesting that the type of films that the genre, all you people that listen to this program, tend to watch or to screen was different than the mainstream public. They liked a different kind of film. And one that our people liked was Unidentified Flying Objects, The True Story of Flying Saucers. It was distributed by United Artists, 1956, and it is a great film. It's somewhat Hollywood, which is okay, and a lot of truth, including some real flying saucers filmed, shown to the general public. And this film had the room not totally packed, but pretty packed. And normally the general public they just don't really.
I love the summer. There's so much to do. Driving my new Volkswagen Jetta to the lake, driving it to the beach, driving it home after a weekend at the beach. See, I got a great deal from my local Volkswagen dealer. And with available features like adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitor, and rear traffic alert, this Jetta is all about confidence. I think I'll drive it up to the mountains this weekend. I might even go hiking, if I have time.
Test drive the Volkswagen Jetta this summer at your local Volkswagen dealer.
It doesn't translate for them, but it translated for our people, so to speak, whatever our people may be. And basically, it's about a guy by the name of Al Chop, public information officer with the Air Force, Pentagon. It's a really interesting story. And matter of fact, when they made this film in 1956 and released it, the United States Air Force drew up contingency plans to counteract any anticipated fallout from the movie upon its release.
Oh, you're kidding.
Kind
of like they didn't do with War of the Worlds back in 1930
they were
whatever.
20 years earlier when they War of the Worlds, they didn't have contingency plans. But they sure as heck had them this time around. And you know what? They didn't need them. So that's one film, highly recommended. Another film which is really, really good is UFOs, It Has Begun. It was made in 1979. This film is a straightaway, total out-and-out disclosure film. No ifs, ands, or buts. When you see this film, you just gotten disclosure. The film starts with a Colonel Coleman, and he's at the Pentagon. Yes, in Washington, D.C. He's in the Pentagon, and he starts the film off, and he's in the hallway of the Pentagon, and he's doing a UFO disclosure film.
Oh, my God.
I know. People are coming and going to and from their offices, et cetera, and so forth. This film was hosted by Rod Serling, remember, from The Twilight Zone. And there were a couple of notable actors that were in it. They do that for, some star appeal. Jose Ferrer was one of them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically what this film does is we got Jacques Vallée in it. I mean, there is all kinds of stuff. They have a guy from the CIA that was doing this, viewing a craft in Washington in the 60s. And when they made the film, it was in the 70s, mid to latter 70s. But he was there, and he explained what happened and all of the things that evolved in his meeting and the viewing of an extraterrestrial craft, because they wanted proof in this meeting. They said, well, prove it to us that you're really here. And they said, go to the window, and they looked out the window, and there it was. But that is another really, really great film. And it is UFOs, It Has Begun, 1979, and it is available also on YouTube, or you can buy it, actually, if you want to.
Cool. Yeah, I may eventually buy that and have it in my library. I love stuff like that. You know what blows my mind about that first movie you mentioned was the fact that it was made a year before I was born. It just blows my mind. That's 61 years ago.
Well, we're going to be talking shortly about 70 years ago.
Oh, great. Okay, I'm really excited about that.
So here's what I wanted to do. Something has come up, and I wanted to save it for your program and for MUFON.
Oh, you are so sweet.
And I'm going to ask your audience, your listening audience, if they think what I'm going to say and talk about initially, and later on probably, but initially, is really worth something. It really makes a lot of sense. And it is earth-shaking.
Really?
Send Lorien some money.
Send Lorien some money?
Send money. Send money.
Is that what you had to say? It was earth-shaking.
It was earth-shaking. Send money. Because help her out, because Lorien Fenton has helped me out for over 10 years. She has gotten me interviews.
Now, see, you're in a time bubble too. I've known you since 2000 and about 10 or 11. So
what you're saying is it's only 7 years.
Yeah. See, this is weird. It's like all my friends that are in the UFO community think I've known them for 20 or 30 years. And I've known them for like 7 or 5, and they're like, I've known you forever. I'm like, oh, no, you haven't. But anyhow, go ahead. I digressed on that one. But that was
all
good.
I'm asking is, you're going to hear something tonight that you haven't heard yet. This is going to be the first. And all I can say is, tomorrow morning, you go outside and what we talk about, and you look up. And if what I say is true, help Lorien. Help her.
Wow. Okay, because I'm dying to hear this. Okay, go for it. Okay. I'm ready.
So let me just give you a little bit of background. I am not a big fan of investigating chemtrails. I am upset about chemtrails because this isn't health food that's being sprayed.
Tell me about it.
Yes, but what aggravates me more is nobody looks up. Nobody looks up. I talk about chemtrails. They say, oh, no, it's contrails. Oh, no, it's contrails. So really? Yeah, contrails 2, 4, 6 minutes. Hey, how about 3 or 4 hours or 5 hours?
How about overnight?
Yeah, you got to. Yesterday I was told, you know what? You need to take a course in astronomy or meteorology. That was it. They said, you need to take a course in meteor. I said, I don't need to see a tic-tac-toe game going on in the sky and have to identify those clouds. To me, that's chemtrails. And so, but yet I'm UFO Jim. And UFO Jim wants to research, investigate, and be involved in UFOs and extraterrestrials. I do not really want to spend a lot of time in chemtrail area, except for the fact Chris Everand, who is enigmatv.com, he did kind of about 5 years ago, and you can see this on YouTube, I believe, and it's called Secret Space 3, The Crop Circle Conspiracy. Now, he's very dramatic, but boy, did he do a good job. He's got UFOs or orbs following aircraft spraying the chemtrails, following the aircraft, and you could see him. I mean, he's done.
I didn't know that. Oh my God, that's so cool. Okay, go ahead.
Why are they following the aircraft and then with the chemtrails? They're probably just acquiring some of the stuff to analyze. What the heck are we spraying on ourselves? That kind of thing. But if you go to enigmatv.com, Secret Space 3, The Crop Circle Conspiracy, in the first 15 minutes, you don't have to spend a lot of time, even though it's quite interesting what he puts on there. But that being said, all you need is 15 minutes. So going back to the chemtrails, about a month ago, all of a sudden, there were no chemtrails. There was no chemtrails. And this is what I'm going to ask you all to do tomorrow. Go look up. This is Northern California. Now, to do chemtrails, you probably have to do it worldwide to have it be effective. If you're trying to block the sun or doing HARP or whatever you're doing with your chemtrails, you probably have to do it in mass. You can't just do an area like Northern California and say that's that. And I know I've had people all over the world calling me saying, "Oh, I'm in Venice right now, and all I see are chemtrails."
Really? Over in Europe?
Okay.
Oh my God.
Everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So there were no chemtrails. So I thought to myself, interesting. Maybe it's a holiday or this or that. And I was talking to one or two folks about it, and they said, oh, maybe it's because the kids are out of school and they're not spraying now because the kids are out of the classroom and they're outside because it's recess. It's summer. It's summer vacation.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is if you're in the southern hemisphere or some other part of the world, you may not be out for recess. You may not be not in school. You may be in school. So the question is, it doesn't work for the whole planet. It doesn't work. So
can I interject something quickly?
Sure.
I just want to say, when you were talking about this just now and you said the kids were out of school, my first thought was, and I did notice that when I was up in Volcano, California, they oversprayed us up there, up in the high Sierras, about 3 or 4. It was the first part of June, the first weekend of June, and I haven't seen too much since then. And here's my theory on it. You're gonna love this theory.
Go ahead.
I think because Bohemian Grove is happening in Sebastopol this weekend, that they stopped spraying a month ahead of time because they don't want to poison their leaders.
Well, let's take this a step further.
Okay, that's just my opinion. Okay, go ahead.
No. Well, you're on kind of the right track, actually, Lorien.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, so let's suppose this. The Paris Climate Accords.
Oh, yeah.
Think about this. The Paris Climate Accords. We're out of it. We were out of it. President Trump, and by the way, I'm not political. I'm not pro-Donald or not anti-Donald. I don't really care much for any of them because
I don't either. Yeah.
They're all part of the same system that has dumbed us down for the past 70 to 80 years. Yeah. But that being said, the Paris Climate Accord, we're out of it. There are 197 people that are countries that are in it. And there's 2 countries that aren't. One of them is, I think, Nicaragua, because they think we're just too willy-nilly and it's too mild of a program. And the other one is Syria, who are in a civil war.
Right.
So they're not in it. And now the United States. But check it out. Who's big, who's got the big bucks? Who may have been paying for those chemtrails?
Well, God, yeah.
If in fact we are out of the Paris Accords, somehow or another, maybe President Trump said, this is awfully expensive. It's costing us, $1 billion a year or $5 billion a year to do this program. And we're footing 80% of the bill or 70% of the bill. Maybe in a kind of a bizarre sort of way, what people are saying about him negatively. And by the way, I've said my share. The reality is he's a businessman. So maybe
that's right.
Think about it. Maybe it's as simple as business. Maybe it's as simple as saving money. Where are the chemtrails? We haven't had them for almost 3 to 4 weeks. Where are they? I've never seen. They've been going on for 15 or 20 years, and now there's no chemtrails. I got up this morning and I'm looking out there saying, with my luck, they'll start up again today.
Well, you never know, but I don't think they're going to start up here in Northern California again if they do, because like I said, I noticed this last year and I never said anything about it because I thought I was kind of going nuts about it,
Right.
The 2 or 3 weeks before the Bohemian Grove started, I noticed there were no chemtrails up in Marin County and, Sonoma. And they didn't start up again until 2 weeks after they all left, the first part of August.
Well, I go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I just thought my brain was thinking, well, and I asked the person who lived in Phoenix if they were still having them, and he said yes. So I kind of went, oh, well, they're just taking care of their own. They're not spraying their, the president and everybody else, right?
Maybe.
That's there. And so I let it go. But interesting, very interesting. So now what we've got to do is we've got to get everybody out giving us reports about if the chemtrails are happening.
Exactly. So I went to, it's not anywhere. Lorien, it is not anywhere. I went to geoengineeringwatch.org, and which is the site for, chemtrails.
That's right. Yeah.
It's at Dean Whittington or Wigan? Right.
Yes.
And there's nothing. There's nothing. On the Google, there's nothing. There's nothing, except for one thing. Tonight, it's on your program. Tonight, you and MUFON and Inception Radio Network have officially broke the story.
This is very cool. I really hope that you're right, man. Wouldn't that be something?
It would be.
President Trump,
yeah.
Just,
because he should be inviting us down to Mar-a-Lago for a wonderful dinner and party.
And golf. And a round of golf.
If we make him out to be a hero of the planet, and I'm not for him. And I'm not against him. I'm against all. I'm theoretically against all of the politicians. They're all part of the same system.
That's right. Me too. And I've point blank stated to everybody, I do not vote for that exact reason. And my whole theory is this: if everybody in the United States would rebel and not vote for any of them until we actually put people in power that we wanted in power, then we could change the world. But I'm tired of being yelled at for not voting, because what people don't understand is by voting, you are just complying to the cabal, basically, is what you're doing. So, I'm not going to do it, and it's just that simple. So I hope nobody gets mad at me tonight on the show about it.
So let's go back to the chemtrails for a minute. So, in fact, if Des Moines, Iowa, tomorrow there's no chemtrails, and if New York City there's no chemtrails, if it's just in this area, I throw my hands in the air and say, I gave it a good try. But you know what? I am the messenger. When I was going down the school trail, it's the kids. They're not inside, they're outside. And I got a hit. Now, was the hit from E.T., because I am an abductee myself, and I have had information given to me. Was that information given to me? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. All of a sudden, I heard Paris Accords. Paris Accords.
Interesting.
Very
interesting. I'm telling you, Jim, contactees and abductees, whatever, get amazing insight. I know I do. I've always thought I was very psychic, but the older I get, I'm starting to think that my angels, because those are my aliens, or angels as far as I can tell, they're just higher dimensional aliens, that's all. I know they absolutely steer me in the right direction, and they're always looking out for me, and they're always giving me answers. And I have these amazing downloads of complete insight into amazing things. Not that I can remember them all well or do exactly what they need me to do to fix things, but at least I try.
Yes.
And, but I absolutely hear you, because I'll tell you a funny thing. I'm sitting here 3 days ago, and I'm working away, and something in my head said, check out what you owe WordPress multi-user platform, because your membership is due soon. And I'm hearing this in my head, and I'm thinking, is that me, or is that somebody telling me to pay attention? Because I was not thinking about that at all, right? And sure enough, I'm sitting here last night at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and a PayPal payment comes through for a heck of a lot more money than I have in any checking account, right? So I'm flipping out, and PayPal doesn't open until 5 a.m. So I waited up till 5 a.m. to call PayPal to cancel out that WPMU automatic yearly fee. Right. And it was so funny, because I'm thinking, gosh, is that me being smart to remember the date somehow? But I don't think I'm that smart. So it's some kind of subconscious connection I have with these other dimensional beings, that they're always looking out for me to try to keep me safe, no matter what it is. It's very interesting. And I don't know if you get that. I'm just using one example about a money situation that stressed me out beyond belief. But it's amazing to me. I talk to all these contactees, and they all say the same thing. They always say, yep, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I was told before not to do it, and I went ahead and did it anyhow. I mean, it's just, it's like, what are we going to do to wake up humanity, especially the contactees? They're getting all these answers and they still mess up, Right. It's kind of funny. Anyhow.
But if in fact this is true, that's a major story.
It's beyond major, Jim. It's like it's going to change everything as far as how people see him. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't talk about this much, but I have some insight into him from a person that is very close to him, and all I got from my friend, and I'll tell you guys who it is. He's not really a friend. He is a working acquaintance friend, and it's Roger Stone. Roger said to me only one time, and I think he said it to me and two other people that were standing around at one of the conferences last year, right before Donald was elected. He said that you would be surprised what this man wants to solve for our problems in the government. And it just kind of struck me as very cool when he said that. I thought, that's a really interesting thing to say because, obviously Roger and Donald Trump and all these people are not going to come out and say exactly what they got going. Donald Trump is not your regular president. He can't get out there and do that like everybody else did. He's been attacked since day one. And so I haven't, just from that statement from Roger, I had a very sneaking feeling that we as a public were probably never going to know the really amazing, true, miraculous things this man was going to do for us. That, he's probably just going to start taking care of business and no one's going to really know about it except for the people that are close to him. And this may be that case. This may be the first thing he did to really start getting rid of the powers that be and their evil cabal that has been dictating our existence for some time now. So,
and also, what is it saying about the Paris Climate Accord? What it could be saying is that, so remember, to do chemtrails, to be effective, according to the experts, and I'm no expert, but the experts seem to say it has to be done to be effective worldwide. Well, what could bring everybody together regarding the climate in one place at one time but the Paris Climate Accord?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be the pivoting point. This would be the wheelhouse for the program. And probably, and I keep going back to the thing about the money, that maybe President Trump wasn't necessarily saying that's a good program or a bad program. But what he may have said is it's an expensive program.
Yeah, exactly.
And for that reason and that reason alone, he may be doing the planet a lot of good. And I mean, I can't believe I'm waving his banner right now. But the reality is this may be true. And if he may not even know what he's done.
That's true too. I mean, God, wouldn't it be amazing that a real businessman that sits there and counts every penny that's going through our government has, kind of surreptitiously gone around and started making this world a better place for all of us? Wouldn't that be amazing? I love it.
Well, maybe it wasn't the chemtrails that got the president to say, we're going to get out of this accord.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did mention it was very expensive. And by the way, Jim, we got to take our next break. So Let's do that now. And then we come back. We'll finish up with this. And then we'll move on to some Roswell stuff and some other things. Fine. But this is fascinating. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, stick around. We got more fun stuff coming for you. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. Oh, my God, what a wild show we're having tonight here. You guys, if this is true, if the chemtrails are disappearing because of the Trumpy Paris pullout, that's what I'm going to call it, the Trump-Paris pullout, I think it's going to be a very interesting next couple of weeks because if Jim Ledwith is truly breaking some news that no one's heard before, no one's thought of before, no one's been following, this is just going to be absolutely amazing. And I do hope we can get it over on Coast to Coast at some point. Maybe, I'll tell you what, Jim, I'll get a hold of Tom, and if this starts to break out as something really amazing, maybe you should go on there for 5 or 10 minutes and tell the people about it.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, the greatest part is no major secret. All we need to do is look up. And as like your staff is saying, your producer's saying, your producer's located whereabouts?
I think it's Minnesota.
Okay, so Minnesota doesn't have chemtrails right now. We know Northern California, around the Bay Area, doesn't have chemtrails right now. So the question is, what's up? Or what's not up? What's down?
What isn't happening? Yeah, it's really cool. You know what I'm going to ask my buddies in chat? That's Durhuff and Max and Sky33.
I
Trisha,
see. I'm looking
Carol.
at the chat room. I'm looking at the chat room right now.
Yeah, I've got about 8 people in there. So I'm hoping that you guys in there tell me if you've seen any chemtrails lately. Just let us know, because this is a very, very interesting situation that Jim has brought to the fore. You know, like I said, Jim, last year I was pretty convinced it was because of Bohemian Grove, and I thought it was just localized. And, and maybe last year it was only localized because of Bohemian Grove, which, like I said, starts about the middle. It's starting this Saturday. Coming up. By the way, I'm supposed to be at a protest outside the gates at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Doubt I'll make it, but that's always one of the most interesting protests in the Bay Area is the Bohemian Grove protest, because you get a lot of people there. It's really quite interesting. It's more like a zoo.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, the president's got a lot of issues going on, the family members and this and that. And I'm not pro him. I'm not anti. I'm anti all of them. But that being said, the reality is I don't know if he could turn this around specifically and make it a positive to sort of offset a lot of his not as positive stuff that's going on right now.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about him is I think he's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like I was saying earlier, and I really believe that he doesn't even care if he has the credit for it. I think he's so angry about the way that they have been running this country that, deep inside, he could care less. He doesn't need the slap on the back. The guy's, he's already done his thing. Now he's just trying to fix things a little bit, I think. And, I do hope that's his attitude, From what I understand, he's actually a pretty down-to-earth guy in spite of, what people say about him. And I can tell you why I think he is pretty nice is because I did watch one of his episodes where he went into his hotel and did the housekeeper job, the bellhop job, and did a bunch of, the behind the desk when you check in job, the concierge and those type of things. And he was actually very pleasant to people. And he was joking around with this this black maid. Right. And it was just, I thought he was pretty cool. I really thought, I can deal with him. I could tell he'd be very tough. But hey, he just wants his hotel to be in, tip-top condition. Right. And, so there you go. I thought it was wonderful. But hey, what do I know? I have a great appreciation for people that are successful in business. I really do. Yes. And I've always said, get a businessman in office and things will change in this country in a heartbeat.
Exactly. In your chat room, I'm just looking at the chat room, and you have Carol, who's just put on. Chat room.
Now you can't answer that yet because
I'm not answering. I'm not touching anything. No. I'm just saying. Well, could I say what she said? Is that okay?
What did she say?
Take a look. You're looking at the chat room.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought there was a question because it was all.
No, it's not a question. It's more of a statement.
Yes. Go
saying
for it.
From Los Angeles Basin area, Los Angeles of all places. No tic-tac-toe for the last few weeks.
Really?
Heat wave here, big time trails in April, however. Well, yeah, but we were in the Accord in April.
Yes, that's true. Oh, Carol, that's interesting news.
So what you just started. Now we go viral. It goes viral. It's going to do it on its own. This is really, for me, with not really particularly caring for the chemtrails, Though probably whoever's behind the chemtrails will tell us how much we need them. But the reality is my heart soars seeing that the chemtrails may have gone away. I mean, it's just that for 15 years I've been saying, look up, look up, look up. And everybody's looking at me like I'm a total whack job and I'm not tight.
I stopped doing it too because I just figured, I'm tired of people just thinking I'm crazy. I just said, you know what? I hide inside during the day. When I see a chemtrail outside, I'm inside with all my doors closed.
Right.
So hopefully I've never breathed in that stuff, but you never know. Apparently it sits around on the ground and eventually
air
gets
conditioning
into all
systems and everything. So in a way, this is probably next to a UFO disclosure. I mean, a real UFO disclosure, which we apparently will never have. But anyway, this is probably the second or third biggest things to come forward of its own, not because it was on the front page of the New York Times. Yeah, no, exactly. No, this is wonderful. So thank you for sharing that with us tonight. Welcome.
And I'm gonna do what I do, and we'll see what happens with it and get the story out there. And I'll text Tom Danheiser and George Norrie and let them know that this has happened. And we'll do our best. I'm actually hoping to be with George Knapp next week. So maybe I'll get it to him first. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll get it out there for you. Okay.
You get it out for planet Earth. For humanity.
For planet Earth.
That's
they may be calling you they'll be calling you for the interviews though, because I don't want to do
What's there to interview? I looked up.
Well, that's all you have to say.
Said Paris Accord instead of the school and the kids, which is BS inside the building.
True.
Ventilation.
Oh, God. Okay, well, now that we've exhausted the skies, let's move on to Roswell because, as we all know, this is
I love the summer. There's so much to do. Driving my new Volkswagen Jetta to the lake, driving it to the beach, driving it home after a weekend at the beach. See, I got a great deal from my local Volkswagen dealer. And with available features like adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitor, and rear traffic alert, this Jetta is all about confidence. I think I'll drive it up to the mountains this weekend. I might even go hiking, if I have time.
Test drive the Volkswagen Jetta this summer at your local Volkswagen dealer.
70th year, and it was just a couple days ago that it was the actual day it happened. I think it was the 8th, or isn't that World UFO Day, the 8th? Isn't that the day it crashed? So, so we're just a couple days beyond that. So what did you do for World UFO Day and Roswell Day, as I call it? And you have an interesting take on Roswell. So do you want to just talk about how you feel about Roswell?
Right. Well, what did I do? What did I do in the 8th? I don't know. I think I had a picnic or something like that. And I was reading Stephen Bassett's Paradigm Research Group's newsletter.
Yes, that was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And he's off to London, so he'll be working the International Paradigm Research Group, Paradigm Research Group International.
National, correct.
Right.
Yep.
So going back to Roswell, first of all, here's something that's interesting. I'm going to do the cart before the horse.
Okay.
Roswell. If it can be categorically proved that the Roswell crash did happen, then a cascading series of remarkable possibilities would become certainties. First, it would mean that there's an intelligent life on other planets with technology greater than ours. Then the 70-year cover-up would imply the existence of a shadow government that continues in power from administration to administration. Otherwise, how could the fraud continue to be perpetrated so expertly? This in turn means that our democracy is an illusion and that we really live in some oligarchy. Then it would mean that we have most certainly gained extraordinary knowledge about our place in the universe that has not been shared with the public that could possibly revolutionize our life here on Earth. This would all be colossal. These would all be colossal developments, and they all hinge on the reality of Roswell.
That's so true. You know, every time I hear you say that, and you've said it, I've heard it a bunch of times because I come to all of your, except I didn't make it up to Sacramento this last month because I was busy. But I try to get to all of your presentations, even if I've seen them once, twice, or three times. And I'll tell you why, folks. When Jim has a presentation, he has thoroughly thought it out. He thoroughly goes deep into as much as he can for the research you can get to. And he has some very interesting insights on the Roswell crash. And it's not necessarily whether there were bodies in the ships or not, or whether the ships were balloons or, you know, all that. He has a different insight. So anyhow, why don't you go on with your Roswell, what I call Jim's interpretation of Roswell.
Right. Well, I think my opinion is that we had disclosure on July 8th, 1947.
And I agree.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe that disclosure was done by Colonel William Blanchard. Colonel Blanchard, for you folks who don't know who Colonel Blanchard was, he's deceased now. He was the commanding officer of the 509th Bomber Group. The 509th Bomber Group was the only atomic bomb-equipped bomber squadron on the planet. They were also the squadron and the aircraft from that squadron or that group that bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Right. And what people don't know is Colonel Blanchard was an aviator, and was an instructor. He instructed pilots to fly and to, go on, do missions. In 1944, he supervised detail ops orders for the delivery of the first atomic bomb in Hiroshima. And in 1945, he was the backup pilot for dropping the atomic bomb from the Enola Gay on Hiroshima. Now, here's the interesting part. Rumor has it, so this isn't, everything I'm telling you now to this point is factual. You can find it on the internet. No big deal.
Right.
But he probably, my feeling is, he probably wanted to be the pilot. Because that was a big deal. I mean, now I wouldn't be so proud about killing so many people. But in 1945, you could be the person that ends the war.
That's true.
The War of Wars. You could have been the hero of heroes. And they made him a backup pilot. And Colonel Tibbets did become the pilot and had a horrible life after it because he probably had all kinds of guilt and et cetera and so forth in his life post being in the military. So our Colonel, William Blanchard, didn't become the pilot. So he didn't do the mission. But he still was the base commander of the 509th. So in 1947, he has his intelligence officer, Major Jesse Marcel, who we got to give some credit to Stanton Friedman. Because Stanton in 1978 went and found Jesse Marcel down in Louisiana. And not only interviewed him, I think multiple times, but he also got him to come out, I guess, and do some, actually he's on film on YouTube. You can go to Jesse Marcel YouTube.
That's right.
You can see him in like 1980 or 1982, and I think he died in 84 or something like that. But basically, Marcel, you went out to the ranch, and there was, I believe, I'm not saying anybody else believes, I believe it was one craft impacting the ground, taking off, and then crashing again, and that's where the main craft was. But a lot of the debris in the 3/4 mile gouge at the Brazel Ranch was debris. And so it was a lot of the debris, or some of the debris, was brought back by Jesse Marcel. And, of course, that was then probably the night of July 7th. On July 8th, he goes back, he stops at his house and shows his wife and kid that some of the debris and the memory medal, and, it's Jesse Marcel Jr. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward now to do the story. So he then gets Lieutenant Walter Hout his public information officer to come to his office in the morning of July 8th and dictates to him. And by the way, you can go to YouTube and see an interview with Walter Haut, Lieutenant Walter Haut, Haute, the public information officer, saying what he did. And also you can see Colonel Jesse Marcel saying what he did and saying the debris wasn't, and he says this in 1980, I guess, it wasn't of this earth. And he says, I was the intelligence officer for the only atomic bomb group on the planet. And I knew almost everything that was flying. And so this was not, he says, this craft was not of this earth. And he says it right on YouTube. It's no big secret. But Colonel Blanchard, in the meantime, has this stuff. So instead of probably, now this is me now saying this part right now, is UFO Jim saying it. The colonel goes, oh my God, I got the greatest story. I guess I can be famous even more than I could have been in 1945. Now I'm the only person that could say we've got a UFO. So he kind of, in a way, in my opinion, went rogue.
Yeah.
And he went and released this. And there's all kinds of stories. No, General Ramey came from the 8th Air Force flying back and forth. But here is a very interesting part, which is on record. He went on a 3-week...
The interesting part about this is, didn't he do all this before Ramey got involved? Didn't Ramey blow a fuse after it happened and then he started showing up?
I mean, you and I know, and then probably everybody listening knows, that's what happened. He blew a fuse. They make it sound like he was part of it. He made it sound like it was part of it. But no, he wasn't probably part of it, but he sure was angry about it, and so was the Pentagon. They were really PO'd. I mean, PO'd. And guess what? Colonel Blanchard went on a 3-week vacation that day.
Yeah, I do. That's the part when I first dove into the Roswell incident with all the books that were out there. It was only mentioned once in one book about that vacation. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah, they probably were upset that that even showed once somewhere, but now it's all over the place. So he goes. Now, the story is he really didn't go anywhere. He really was managing the debris field at the other site where the craft was.
Wait. You found out that he really never did go on a vacation? Or was it,
if you track his whereabouts, and there were whereabouts, and you basically track where he was. First, he went to Albuquerque, and there was Air Force Day, and he was dealing with the base commander, I think, of Kirtland Air Force Base. Okay. And he was there for that ceremony. Then he somehow or another, and he stayed around that area, and then he went up to, I believe it was Colorado or something like that. So they tracked him going a few different places. And I find it really, really interesting that no one ever talks about this man not being around. And so when you look at the interview with Walter Haut, the public information officer, on YouTube, thank you, YouTube, he says, we had a C-54 aircraft, and we had these boxes with some of the debris in it. And they loaded a box onto the C-54, but the material never went to Fort Worth. That's where the aircraft was going to. It was going to General Ramey's for the infamous press conference, of which Jesse Marcel, was the stooge, where they had him,
Well, right. And then, of course, we all know about the letter being digitally enhanced in the late 90s? Right. That we actually could read that they had said, this is, we've got to cover up this thing with a balloon. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
anyhow,
it gets even more interesting. Here's where it gets more interesting. In the Roswell Daily Record, which is one of the, by the way, Colonel Blanchard had Lieutenant Haut go to 2 newspapers in Roswell and 2 radio stations.
Okay.
One of the newspapers was the Roswell Daily Record.
Okay.
This is mind-blowing. On the front page, and I bought this at the UFO Congress in February when we had that down in Fountain Hills.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the grandchildren of the Roswell Daily Record were there in the vendor room.
Really?
Yeah, and they were selling
God.
them for like $5 a pop. So I bought a couple of pops, and it says at the top on July 9th, General Ramey empties Roswell saucer, which basically said, nah, it's a weather balloon. But on the bottom, so we're standing there, and I'm talking to the kids, and this guy comes walking up, and he says, "Did you ever see the article on the front page on the 9th at the bottom of the front page?" And we have it there. So we look at it, and it says, Hatch visits president. It says, Washington, July 9th, AP, that's Associated Press.
Yeah.
Carl A. Hatch, Democrat, New Mexico, paid President Truman a call at the White House. He said afterward, it was just a personal visit. Right.
Yeah, a personal visit. That doesn't happen often.
I had nothing to do. I just sort of stopped by. And what a coincidence. It was just hours after the discovery or the announcement by Colonel Blanchard.
Oh, my God.
I think what happened was the president said, oh, the senator's here. Have him come to the White House. And they probably explained to him how he needs to handle the press.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
So that is such a tell. That is such a tell.
It is. I'm sorry, but you know what? In this day and age, if that had happened, there would be fake news supposedly all over that one like hot glue, you know? Right. It would be plastered everywhere, you know?
It absolutely blows my mind, but it's so easy. That's the problem. Why is it so easy? I mean, I'm not saying this is the way it went down. I'm not saying, but I will say this, that we do have witnesses who have, through Kevin Randall, we have one by the name of Little who worked for the Atomic Energy Commission. He worked on the Manhattan Project. And he was a colonel at Elmendorf Air Force Base, along with now General Blanchard. General Blanchard, 1953, so now it's 6 years, fast forward.
6 years later, yeah.
6 years later, they're both in Elmendorf Air Force Base, and I guess they were buddies. And the colonel says to the general, my wife's having our child in Chicago, and I can't get there, and I would love to be there for the birth of my child. And so the general said, General Blanchard, he said, well, you know what? I'll fly you there. Because he was, not only a pilot, but he was probably one of the commanders of the base. By now it's the U.S. Air Force. And so he is flying him he said, I can fly you to a base near Chicago, but I can't take you to Chicago. And so the colonel said, no problem, General. I'll get a cab. I'll get there if I can get that close. So the general is flying him. So I guess, the colonel was sitting in the right-hand seat or something in the cockpit. And he said he asked the general, he said, so what was the real story about that UFO stuff in Roswell? And he said, oh, yes, it was a real craft. And Little and Randall, whatever, they asked, did he say it was a UFO, an extraterrestrial craft? And his response immediately was, absolutely. He said, one craft. He didn't say one craft. He said a craft and 4 bodies.
Wow.
Craft and 4 bodies.
Wow. So he admitted it to him.
He did.
God,
and that is available
so
on the internet. Available on the internet. We can all do this at home. And they say, no, don't do it at home. You need to be a professional. No, you don't need a professional. If you really want to check it out, just investigate it. And check out what I say, just investigate it. I mean, it's easy. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly how it really went down, because there's some parts, as I've represented, about Colonel Blanchard initially wanting the fame of being famous. I'm just using common sense. But interestingly enough, the colonel became a 4-star general. And he becomes the vice chief of staff of the Air Force and becomes 4-star general in 1965. He's at the Pentagon.
Okay, we got to stop right there. And remember, we're at the Pentagon. He becomes a 4-star general. We're taking our last break, and we'll be back, because I'll remember that he's at the Pentagon. He got his 4 stars, and I want to know what happens next. All right, folks, stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. I'm here tonight with my buddy UFO Jim Ledwith. Jim, how can they find you on the internet? We forgot to do that. We got to make sure that they can get to your website.
Thank you for asking, because if not, we probably would have gone through the 2 hours and I never would have said a thing. But anyway, there's 2 different sites. They go to the same place. One is simpler. It's UFOJimSonoma.com. UFO Jim Sonoma, SONOMA.com, UFO Jim Sonoma, or UFOsAreal.com, UFOSRREAL.com.
Cool. I love it. Okay. So now people can find you there. And if they're in Northern California, you pretty much speak at the Sonoma MUFON meetings, my MUFON meetings. You're at my conferences. You're at the Sonoma International Film Festival. You have your classes in October. If any of you guys are around in October, it's a great month in the wine country. A lot of harvesting going on, and the Nouveau wines are out. And so you could just make a night or a day of it or whatever, and come on down, do your wine and cheese, and then end up at UFO Jim's place, and maybe, crash out at a hotel that night and head on home the next day. So
that's right.
It's all, I mean, if you're going to do ufology, you got to do it right, folks. I always do. I get a hotel, I hang out, I have a good time, I go to dinner. I just don't do this like, oh God, I got to go find the information and then run around and drive home. I mean, it's like, really make a day of it, make it a thing, because if you're having fun and it makes sense to you and it's answering questions for you, it's better that you're calm and happy and have some wine and cheese, right? Right, Jim?
Right. And I think we're doing it on Monday nights, October 16th, I believe it is, and 23rd. It's on my calendar, which is on my website.
Oh, cool.
Matter of fact, it is.
Okay.
It is on there, yes.
Excellent. Okay, so Monday night, what time does it start?
7 p.m.
Okay, I'm going to be late because I've got to do my radio show from 5 to 7, but I will be there. I promise. Okay. All right. So now we're talking about the general who becomes a general and he heads off to the Pentagon. Now, what happened at that point?
Well, so here he's at the Pentagon, and the history basically is in 1957, he became the commander of Strategic Air Command's 7th Air Division. In February of 1965, General Blanchard became Vice Chief of Staff, United States Air Force, with promotion to 4-star rank, as we just had said.
Right.
And on May 31st, 1966, Butch dies at the Pentagon of a heart attack. Now, maybe he did. I'm not saying he didn't. Maybe he did. There's another side to the story. Maybe another story. Maybe Butch liked to talk a lot or sung. And let's say he's at the officers' club at the Pentagon. And, it's after work. He's having a good time. He's talking like he did to Little, on board that aircraft in 1953. And maybe they asked him, so what happened in Roswell, General? Blah, blah, blah. And they're saying, boy, he's just doing too much talking. So maybe it was an inconvenient truth or who knows what. I'm not saying they did something to him, but I would put money on it probably wasn't an autopsy.
Oh, now that's interesting. Now, how old was he when he died?
Wasn't very old. He was like, he was born in 1960. He was 50 years old.
Oh, that's pretty young for a heart attack, but it's happened. But
Of course, it happened.
And we do have to remember it was back then when people smoked and drank like fishes. And
oh, absolutely.
And smoked like a chimney and drank like a fish. That's how my dad always says it.
That's right.
So, it could have been that too. But yeah, it never hurts to speculate off in another direction too. I'm telling you. And the other thing is, when he was talking, if he had loose lips, he was not talking to people that had signed their disclosure agreements and basically had their lives threatened. Okay?
Yeah, Chester Little in 1953 probably didn't sign anything, even though he was involved with the Manhattan Project. So, I mean, he's had high security clearances, of course, but not pertaining to this. He was just asking the general, who was then a one-star general, the general about what was Roswell and was it UFO, and then it was the general that added about the bodies. I don't know if Chester Little asked him about bodies,
right?
But he said it was one craft, 4 bodies.
Did he say if any of them were alive, or is that all that Chester got out of him?
That's all. That's all it was on the internet, and that's all Chester got out of him. At least, best we know.
Wow. God, that's so intriguing. God. Well, is there any more to the Roswell story that you have looked into?
Well, the answer is basically little, not a lot. I mean, it's sort of like, to me, it's somewhat cut and dry. I mean, it was a crash of a craft. 1, 2, don't know. That there were bodies, and supposedly one was alive. And here's another thing. Here's another thing that's interesting. At the 50th anniversary, you can see this on YouTube. A Colonel John Haynes from the United States Air Force has a press conference.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Had a press conference, and at this press conference, he has the media in there, and then the media he's saying, "Case is closed. It's over. We're not doing this anymore. Here's the book. You want all the information? Here it is." Now, then they started. Then the Colonel Haynes starts to talk about at the press conference about bodies. He says, "Well, there were bodies. We can explain the bodies. They were crash test dummies." And it turns out the first crash test dummy was invented in 1953. Roswell, the incident, was in 1947. So these reporters, there was a couple from CNN that were all over him.
I know. It was great.
Colonel, we don't understand. How can you say that it was crash test dummies when, excuse me, it was 6 years difference in time? And so the colonel said, well, what we got here is people get mixed up, and it's called time compression.
I never forget that. I will never forget that answer.
Time compression. And you can see that interview on YouTube.
I know.
Put in Roswell press conference. It was at the Pentagon. 1997.
You noticed June. They didn't do anything for the 70th trying to dispel it, didn't you?
No, they're done. He's done. And then the colonel went on in his presentation and said, well, the bodies could have been, it was a crash in 1956 where X number of airmen lost their lives. And then in 1959, there was another crash. My God, we're talking about 1947, not 1956 and 1959.
I know. I never did understand why he brought that up, except for to make people think that, well, the crash test, we had something going on back then we weren't telling you about, or something to that effect. And I thought it was such a lame interview. It was just unbelievul. And what can you do? Anyhow, we got lots of questions for you. Well, not lots. We got some. Now, I want anybody left over in chat, you guys, ask your questions of Jim. He can answer just about anything because he is a generalist. So we can get him on a few things. So the first question out of the gate is a question from Max, and he wants to know, the closer we get to disclosure, government or not, which is a matter of perception, Will disclosure make MUFON less or more relevant? And then when he says MUFON, I think MUFON's a good point to take as less or more relevant. But also, I think let's expand that to include all the researchers, all the contactees, all the people on the UFO circuit, I call it. How about all those people? What do you think will happen if the government or somebody else discloses to those people?
Well, here's the deal. First of all, disclosure is not going to happen the way we would love it to happen. It's just not going to happen. The reality is that without a permanent threat to national security, America's multi-billion-dollar war machine is without a purpose. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, the reality is we won't have disclosure until something happens. And that's right. The way I work. My priority number one is humanity. And I'd like to ease the landing, make the landing as soft as possible for when that event happens. And that event won't happen through the government. It will be something else. I'm not saying it's going to be false flag. Who knows what it's going to be. It's going to be something's going to happen that's going to shock everybody. For instance, in the movie Intruders, I know you've heard this before, Lorien, but a lot of people are listening. So in the movie Intruders, that was put together by Dr. John Mack, dead. Bud Hopkins, dead. Tracy Torme, alive, living in Los Angeles. I'm doing a little work with him and James Fox. But anyway, in the film called Intruders, which, by the way, you can see on YouTube.
We love YouTube for this stuff. We love YouTube.
I mean, there's a lot of poopy on there, but there's also a lot of good stuff. That film, Intruders, is a long film because it was in parts. It was in segments.
Wasn't it 6 parts?
I think you're right. And it was for TV.
Yeah.
And so what you see on YouTube is like 3 hours because they put it all together.
Yeah.
But so anyway, the film was made in 1992. And the scene in this part where I'm going to talk about is Richard Crenna is playing Dr. Mack. And he's at a retired general's house. Beautiful Tudor mansion. And it's raining out, and they're inside the house, and they're having a little something to drink. And the general is trying to get Dr. Mack to join the group, the cabal. Get him to join, be a team player.
I love the summer. There's so much to do. Driving my new Volkswagen Jetta to the lake, driving it to the beach, driving it home after a weekend at the beach. See, I got a great deal from my local Volkswagen dealer. And with available features like adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitor, and rear traffic alert, this Jetta is all about confidence. I think I'll drive it up to the mountains this weekend. I might even go hiking, if I have time.
Test drive the Volkswagen Jetta this summer at your local Volkswagen dealer.
And so the general, and so then Dr. Mack, or Richard Crenna, is saying, but that we will disclose this to the public, correct? And he said, the general says, no, doctor, we're not going to be disclosing it to the public. And he says, what do you expect? Should the president of the United States go on, this is what he's saying to Mack, should the president of the United States go on national television and say, here we go now, strap in, folks, can you handle the truth? I'm not saying this is the truth, but it's probably pretty close to the truth. Anyway, my fellow Americans, we have evidence of a superior race or races who have visited our planet. They come from God knows where, maybe outer space, or from some other dimension of existence. They are abducting our citizens on a regular basis. They are conducting experiments on them, collecting specimens of our ova, our sperm. They've been impregnating women and then later invading those women's bodies again and stealing the unborn fetuses for reasons we can only imagine.
God. And this is why Art Bell always said to everybody, hey, I'm kind of now turning into that guy who says, I don't want to know, I don't want the world to know. It could be ugly.
I know. So so my feeling is that's kind of like will not get the disclosure, and I know whether it's Steve Bassett or a lot of other people are working really hard, and I can give them nothing but credit and support. But
yeah. And I'm just going to throw one last comment in on this. If I'm out of work, out of my MUFON work, out of my UFO work, if all this ends tomorrow because of disclosure and no one comes to me for answers about anything, that's fine with me. I have no problem with it. I am not, I'm not an A-team on the UFO scene, and all those people will obviously be the go-tos like Greer and Wilcock and, oh God, don't get me started on, that group of people. But, that's great. Whatever floats their boat. Hopefully at that time I can go back to being an artist and I don't even have to talk about it ever again, Right. Or you can smoke your cigars and I'll throw pots and we'll sell them at the Sonoma Community Center. How's that sound?
Sounds like a possible plan. But
yeah,
anyway,
it does.
So I was just thinking, I know we're getting short on time. But
before, we've got more questions for you. So let's get to some more questions. Okay. Durhuff wants to know, please ask Jim if he's familiar with the Nick Redfern's new book, The Roswell UFO Conspiracy, Exposing a Shocking and Sinister Secret. And if you are familiar with it, what is your assessment of the book?
If that's about they were putting Russians, prisoners of war, in craft, some kind of experiment. If that's it, I think I read a book. When you say latest book, was it something like from a week ago or something from 4 or 5 years ago? I don't know, but if it was 4 or 5 years ago, Nick Redfern's book, he was talking about that they had prisoners of war or Russian people or something in craft, and I may be wrong. I may be totally wrong. If that's what he's referring to. Yeah,
and so what's your take on? Do you think that might have been, Nick's got an idea that this could be real or what?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's kind of my take on it too, but I'm not sure. I haven't read the book yet. As soon as I read it, I'll pass it on to you, and then we'll both be in the know. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Here's one more question from Durhuff. He also wants to know, please ask Jim his view of Bob Lazar.
I think Bob's the real deal.
Yep, I agree. And you know what did it for me, Jim? Did I ever tell you this?
No.
I got very much involved, as you know, in the super soldier and mind control community when I got into the UFO scene. Suddenly I was smacked upside the head with that as well, and the My Labs and all that. And several people I knew that came forward to me that nobody knows about. I don't even talk about these people. Because they've asked me never to bring their names up or even tell anybody they know me, had told me stories about working for the government, being on military bases, and going home after work and not remembering a dang thing that happened at the office that day. They remember getting there, they remember sitting down at their desk, and the next thing they remember, they're walking to their car.
Huh.
So when Bob Lazar said, and this is what did it for me, is like I kind of was on the fence about him for all these years, but back in 2011, when these people came to me and started coming out of the woodwork and they told me their story, I went, oh my God, that's exactly what Bob Lazar said. And the minute I heard that, I went, okay, he's the real deal. Because that's a dead giveaway. Remember, he said, I used to get on the Jane plane and they'd play Going to America by...
Oh, that's Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond's Coming to America.
Right. You're right. I remember him saying that, yes.
Yeah, by the time he got off the plane, he couldn't remember what he'd done at work that day.
Right.
So I'm like thinking, geez, this is severe mind control. They've got a frequency built into the song that wipes all their minds up or just gets them to the point where they're sleepy and forget, whatever it is they're doing to them. And he's got to be the real deal, because that was like such a telltale sign for me. I just kind of was like, oh my God, definitely real. Anyhow, so you go ahead. Is Bob Lazar real to you? Yes. And do you have a reason why?
Other than the fact that I've met him in person, I've heard him speak. It's just too good. It's not too good a story not to be real. But it's too good a story not to be real. I mean, it's just really, really good. And he's the real deal. He's the real deal. He's not making, I mean, they discredited him. They wiped him off the map, to speak.
And, you know, our favorite guy, Stanton Friedman, is the instigator of that, you know.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Stanton can't stand him. He's the one it spread the rumor that he's a fake. And, oh, yeah. Stanton and him are at war. They've been at war since the Stanton came out and said, no way has this guy ever done anything he said he did. And Stanton will not get off that horse. He won't get off of it. No matter.
Stanton's a stubborn guy.
Yeah, he is. And I've sat with him as you know, my table was right next to him 2 years ago at Contact in the Desert, and I had to talk to him. And guess what we talked about?
I can understand.
And he wouldn't talk to me after that, the rest of the day. He turned his back on me and was sitting looking the other direction, and he refused to talk to me the rest of the day. But he was nice to me after that. But I mean, seriously, he does not believe that Bob Lazar is the real deal. So anyhow, we'll leave it at that. And let's go on to the last question. Max wants to know, he says he's just looking at the technological advancements from 1947 until now, compared to the 5,000 years before. Is disclosure within itself, and who is to say the craft and or material was not of this earth? Couldn't it just be they were coming home? Okay, so I'm kind of getting to what he's asking. He wants to know if you feel that these guys are coming back to the place they originated from, and that the technology that we got off of that craft in 1947 was the reason we are as technologically advanced as we are 70 years later.
Well, of course, the answer is probably yes, because, I mean, whether you dig or do not dig Colonel Corso's book, Day After Roswell, I mean, he supposedly was the one that helped disseminate that information out to the private industry, Bell, General Electric, et cetera, and so forth. The answer is probably yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. And what about Colonel Corso? I mean, he swears that it was because of that craft and crash that they got Velcro and chips, computer nano chips, or, well, at the time, didn't we have in 47 like rooms of computers, if I remember correctly?
Oh, I don't know if we even had them then, but yeah,
we did. We did. They just weren't what we consider computers nowadays. We did not have we had resistors, and we had what are the other ones? They start with a C. I can't remember the word. Not condensers. Anyhow, we had these little things that looked like little batteries on wires in all the computers back then. I don't know if everybody knows what I'm talking about, but they certainly weren't as small. We did not have microchips. We did not have the chip back then, a silicon chip. The silicon chip came after the Roswell crash. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Anyhow, okay, you're not going to believe this, Jim. It's the end of the show. We've had such a great time, and thank you for spilling the beans, literally, about the chemtrails here. I really appreciate it.
Your beans.
My beans. I'm going to pass those beans on up the food chain if you get my draft. I don't want to hold the beans. I want to give them to somebody else.
Yeah, they're your beans. Right.
That's what I'm going to do.
Everybody get out there tomorrow morning and look up.
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna ask everybody, and this weekend we're gonna be up in Canocti doing a big sky watch. And I got to talk to you after the show. Anyhow, we're going up there with a big sky watch. We'll definitely be looking for them, and we're calling the crafts, and we're just gonna have a great old time. So it'll be really cool. Anyhow, so give your websites one more time, please.
I will do that. It is UFOJimSonoma.com, UFOJim SONOMA.com. And UFOs are real.com, UFOS